Good afternoon, Dr. Prabakaran.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
You are just listening my voice, am I right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, very good. Once again, I am delighted to extend a very warm welcome to all the participants of this online course on women's rights education. And now today we have resource person Dr.S.Prabakaran, senior most faculty member from the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. And to mention very few words about Dr. Prabakaran, having a rich experience in e-governance and public administration, integrity in public administration, governance, Prabakaran has a rich experience in handling any topic at any time, and he is our ready-made resource person. Always coming with a good preparation. Certainly, he is going to satisfy all the participants, and he is going to talk about the legal mechanisms to protect human rights and other aspects. Certainly, it's a very useful topic because whatever the constitution, whatever the democratically elected government promised certain fundamental rights to the citizen, but it is only the legal mechanism like a legislature, like a National Commission for Human Rights, a State Commission for Human Rights, National Commission for Scheduled Caste, National Commission for Scheduled Tribe, and etc. etc. Only these institutions are indeed protecting the rights of the women. So now I invite Dr. Prabakaran, and my dear participants, the session will go up to 30 to 35 minutes, and he is going to present with PowerPoint. And don't worry, because there is some problem with the Prabakaran's video mode option. And don't worry, he is going to deliver lecture with the PowerPoint. And at the end of the PowerPoint lecture, you can just raise your hands by putting symbol in the Zoom app. We will allow one by one to raise the questions. Now it's a time for Dr. Prabakaran. You please start your presentation. Thank you once again for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to all the participants, and my special thanks go to the authorities of our university for arranging the wonderful occasion during the COVID 2019 to make the learning community learn as per the directions of the University Grants Commissions. And so regarding my topic, it is international and regional human rights mechanisms to protect women's rights. So, as a citizen of India and as a citizen of all sovereign nations, everybody is able to enjoy certain rights, but at the same time, many people, many sections of people across the world are suppressed and oppressed of their fundamental rights and other rights. Among that group, one of the important section of people suffered is the women. So in this era, this is especially the digital era, we are speaking about the transparency, right to information, sustainable development, and many themes are there. But we are not concerned about our fellow human being, that is the women. Even though there are certain international and regional human rights mechanisms to protect the women's rights. So by seeing this PPT and our day-to-day affairs in our life, we should start respecting the women and their rights. So with this, I'm going to start my presentation with the inspirational quotes of women. Three of the quotes I have chosen for this presentation. One is Elizabeth I, the Queen of England. According to her, she says that, I know I have the body of a weak, feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king and of a king of England too. And think full scorn that Parma or Spain or any prince of Europe should dare to invade the borders of my realm. to which rather than any dishonor shall grow by me. I myself will take up arms. I myself will be your general, judge, rewarder of every one of your virtues in this field. So this was the speech given by the Elizabeth I to his troops that see the courage of women in 1588 to lead a nation and to fight against the invaders. So that is the courage of the women. And second quote is by Emmeline Pankhurst. She is a fighter to secure the rights from
Dr.
the
Prabakaran,
state.
Dr.
So
Prabakaran,
according to
you can
her,
also share
yes,
you can also share PowerPoint because the participants are requesting your PPT. Leisurely, you can share your PPT. Don't worry. Take your time, please.
Okay, okay.
Now it's enabled. Now it's enabled. Please.
Are you able to view the PPT now?
Now you can share PPT. You can share the PowerPoint.
Yes, 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 yes. Is it visible?
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Is it visible?
Not visible. Yes. Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
okay.
just put F5 F5 so that everyone will see the full screen, please.
Definitely, definitely.
Very good. Thank you. You can continue. You can continue. Sorry for the disturbance. Please.
No issue, no issue. No. Okay. So the second quote, according to Emmeline Pankhurst, she says that we wear no mark, we belong to every class, we permeate every class of the community, from the highest to the lowest, and so you see in the women's civil war, the dear men of my country are discovering it. It is absolutely impossible to deal with it. You cannot locate it and you cannot stop it. So the Emmeline Pankhurst, she fought and got the right to vote during her period in 1930. So that was the thing is, women are having the spirit to protest and to secure their rights. And the third one is by the former First Lady of the United States of America, Hillary Clinton. According to her, she says that if there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. Once and for all, let us not forget that among those rights are the right to speak freely and right to be heard. So from this statement, that is, everybody should arise and to secure the equality among the other community, that is the male and other genders. So these three quotes says that every woman in the earth should have courage, should have spirit, and they should arise to equality. So this is the three quotes by the famous people, that is especially women. And next, women in the world, key challenges. So as a human being, all are entitled to human rights, like a right to live free from violence and discrimination, to enjoy the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health, to be educated, to own property, to vote, and to earn an equal wage. So these are all the rights that are enjoyed by all sorts of people. But even, that is, we are living in the 21st century, now too, women across the continents face discriminations, inequality, lack of access to education, healthcare facility, and even now we can also say that they are underrepresented in political and economic decision-making processes. That is, they are not able to secure the entrepreneurship, they are not the bosses of the CEO, they are not able to be a policymaker of the nations. So these are all the lacking among the women sections. So in this juncture, for many years, women's rights movements have fought hard to address this inequality, campaigning to change laws from the local level, national level, international level, and taking to the streets to demand their rights that are respected by the people across the world. And new movements in the digital age, such as Me Too campaign, which also highlights the prevalence of gender-based violence and sexual harassment. So the conditions are not up to the mark of the United Nations and the declarations of human rights and various mechanisms. Still, we are marching to secure their rights. In this way, there are many partners, that is intergovernmental partners, national mechanisms, international mechanisms, civil society, businesses and philanthropies, national committees, goodwill ambassadors, and media. That is the fourth pillar of democracy. All these stakeholders are participating in getting the rights for the women folk. Next, we are going to see, we are speaking about the mechanisms or instruments of human rights that may be of international or national, so which will be dealt by certain tools, that is, the instruments may be also called as treaty, conventions, covenant, customary international law, declarations, charters, resolutions, recommendations, comments, and so on. So these are all the various types of the instruments. For example, if you are seeing the treaty, it is a formal agreement between states that defines and modifies their mutual duties and obligations, used synonymously with conventions and covenants. So we can see that all these treaty, convention, covenant, customary law, all these are part of the instruments of human rights for women. All these instruments have to be ratified by the member nations. If it is ratified, then only the women sections in the particular state can have access to the rights, or else it is not possible for them to secure the rights. So these are all the basic instruments. Once again, treaty, convention, covenant, customary international law, declarations and charter, resolutions, recommendations, comments, and so on. And next, we are going to see an image that is UN Women, United Nations women officers across the world. It covers Americas and the Caribbean, Western and Central Africa, Eastern and Southern Africa, Europe and Central Asia, Arab states, Asia and the Pacific. So across the world, all the members of the United Nations are having the offices of the UN women in their country, where people can learn the policies of the United Nations for the women, and also representing their grievances step by step to resolve it. The next one is international human rights mechanisms to protect women rights. So the mechanisms can be classified into two different types. One is global and second one is regional. So there are two types of mechanisms. Both, whether global or regional human rights of women, it has to be specifically recognized by the corresponding obligations of the national government. So, for example, you can also, that is, you know about the CEDAW, Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination against Women. It is a convention that has been made by the United Nations. If that convention has been ratified by the state government, that is by the state, then only the people of the particular state can enjoy. The government also will take steps to protect and promote such rights. So these are all the two different types of rights, that is two types of rights at the global level and regional level. And now we are going to start with the international human rights mechanisms. Let us start with the UN Commission on the Status of Women. This is the first intergovernmental organization of the United Nations. It is the principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and empowerment of women. So the prime aim, see here, the promotion of gender equality and empowerment of women. It is an organ of the ECOSOC, that is, United Nations consists of 5 different organs like General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Cultural Organization. This Economic and Social Council is also a part of the United Nations. According to the ECOSOC resolution in 1946, the UN Commission on the Status of Women was created. Its prime duty is to evaluate progress on gender equality, identify challenges faced by the women at all different levels, and set the global standards. So across the world, a policy for the women that should reach all sections of the society so that the women can be empowered. So setting global standards and formulate concrete policies to promote gender equality and advancement of women. Wherever we go, all the different international human rights mechanisms, regional human rights mechanisms, national human rights mechanisms, all almost focus on 2 important things. One is gender equality and the empowerment of women. Everything comes under this broader umbrella, that is gender equality and the empowerment of women. And one of the recent member added to the United Nations Commission on Status of Women is the Saudi Arabia, which has been criticized for its treatment of women. They are not given the right to vote. Now, after the scenario changes, now the people in the Saudi Arabia has the right to vote. And another feature of this is Sharifa Hamid Ali. She is an Indian feminist, nationalist, advocate, and political figure. She was the president of All India Women's Conference 1935 and one of the founding members of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women in 1947, one among the 15 original members. So see the importance, the role played by the Indian women. See the year 1883 to 1971, it was in 1946. So before independence, women in India also equally with the men fought for their rights, fought for the freedom of the nation, fought for the emancipation of the women's class, and so on. So that is the significance of the Indian women in the international scenario. And another feature of the UN Commission on the Status of Women is it is working as an informed lobbyist and support all organizations. So as per the setting global standards, the UN Commission on Status of Women used to lobby all organizations, all states, while framing the policies. It should aim for gender equality and empowerment of the women. So here, for example, in our parliament, wherever we go there, we used to have the pressure groups or the lobbyists. They used to lobby for certain causes. Likewise, the UN Commission on the Status of Women is acting as an informed lobbyist because they know the exact statistics of the women across the world. That is the role played by the UN Commission on the Status of Women. Next one is United Nations Human Rights System for protecting women's rights. It is in general. You know that United Nations is a pioneer organization in the world. Every other organization, whether it is dealing with the security of the nation, rights of the people, welfare of the people, or anything, everything comes under the United Nations. And in the United Nations, its obligations set forth in Charter which includes promotion of human rights and the fundamental freedom for all people of the member nations based on the rule of law. Nothing is there, only it is based on the rule of law. It even says that only we have to see that it is according to the rule, everyone should enjoy the rights and its benefits. The basic human rights to which all people are entitled are contained in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948. And the UDHR also set forth two broad categories of rights, civil and political rights, which came into force in 1966, both economic, social, cultural rights and civil and political rights. The civil and political rights such as basic freedoms, right to liberty, security of a person, freedom from torture, degrading treatment, and right to an effective remedy when human rights violations has occurred. So yesterday too, incident happened in the Vilupuram district. I couldn't recollect the name of the particular girl. She has been burnt and that is dead. So that human rights violations that will be issued in the court in the proper channel. So then second one is economic and social and cultural rights, includes right to adequate standard of living, right to adequate medical care, social services, right to education. Although it is not a treaty, the Universal Declaration has the force of customary law. Customary law, that is, it will put into practice. You know that what happened in Syria and Afghanistan about the women. Lakhs and lakhs of women have been killed, and the people are not given rights in the Syria and Afghanistan. After the intervention of the United Nations and its organizations, now people are able to get rights. And there are certain specialized agencies like World Health Organization. Recently, we got the information that our erstwhile agriculturist M.S. Swaminathan's daughter was appointed as the chief of the World Health Organization. See, women, the Indian women, because of their hard work, because of their involvement, because of their interest in the upliftment of the society, they are coming into the mainstream of development. So you people also should have the spirit, courage, and involvement to be the like the few famous peoples. And international level organizations, these are all the specialized agencies under the umbrella of the United Nations. So in that recently adopted general comments number 22 is that right to sexual and reproductive health for women, and number 23 says that right to just and favorable conditions of work. And the next one is the famous convention, that is the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. It was established in 1979. It is also called as CEDAW. It came into force in 1981, approved by 185 states, internationally accepted principles and measures to achieve equal rights for women everywhere. So internationally, the principles are accepted and measures are taken to provide equal rights to women. CEDAW is the only treaty covering all categories of human rights, especially for the women force. The convention defines what constitutes discrimination against women. So you know that discrimination on basis of the race, culture, sex. Yesterday too, the news in the United States of America, the President Trump during his press conference said that United States of America is doing better. Immediately, one Virginia-based press reporter named Vijaya Jiang. She is the basically origin from China. She asked why US was doing better than the remaining countries. Immediately, the president said that you go and ask China. Why you are saying the statement to me? The press reporter asked. That is on basis of race, you are discriminating me. So that is the discrimination prevailing for the people, learned people, and also the literate people. So the convention defines what constitutes discriminations against women, being an international human rights treaty set as a force of law. So that can be applied in the governance of the country. If it is not followed, it can be sued in the court, and the judicial can intervene, and they can also give justice to these affected people. So in SEDA, there are 30 different articles. Articles 1 to 5 says that non-discrimination and state obligations. What are all the non-discriminations that to be followed, and what are all the state obligations in carrying out policies? And Article 6 to 16 deals with the trafficking, prostitution, political and public life, participation, nationality, education, employment, health, economic and social benefits, rural women, equality before law, marriage, and family lives. And Article 17 to 23 deals with the committee and its procedures, what are all the different subcommittees, and what are all the procedures for taking actions. And Article 20-30, it says that the structure of the administration and their interpretations of the policies and programs. And optional protocol. So this convention was implemented in the year 1979 and came into force in 1981, and the member nations can ratify if they want, otherwise it is not. In 2000, an optional protocol also came into force in 2000. Parties to protocol allow the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women to hear complaints. If we are a signatory, then we can add our grievances to the committee at step by step, that is starting from the local level to the international level. So the committee can hear complaints from the individuals or inquire into the grave or systematic violations of the conventions. That is, it is covering all categories of human rights for women. The protocol has led a number of decisions against member states on issues such as domestic violence, parental leave, and forced sterilizations. The domestic violence. Domestic violence is also called as the intimate partner-made violence. So that is a violence made within a known circle. Parental leave, maternity leave, parental leave, forced sterilization, abortions, mutilations, that's so on and so on. So the SEDA sessions twice annually to consider the progress reports by member states. States file reports once every 4 years. Authority to investigate violations and make recommendations. So in this, the general recommendations, number 33, on women's access to justice. So now through the intervention of the United Nations and its agencies, now we are having free legal aid for all, not only for the women force, across the nation. If the people are not able to spend money to seek justice, there is a free legal aid, free legal system center at every district level, high court level, Supreme Court level. There they can get access to the justice if they are not economically able. And the rights of the rural women. So rural, wherever we go, that is the focus, because as per the statement of our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, he says that India lives in villages. So almost all the forms of problems, violation, discrimination, each and everything starts with the rural sector. So the rights of the rural women have been concentrated by the convention. And to carry out the features of the convention of elimination of discrimination against women, the committee have been formed, the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. So it has given recommendations, many, more than 30 recommendations have been given and adopted, but the recommendation 12 and 19 is more and more important. The recommendation 12 says that the legislation in force to protect women against the incidents of all kinds of violence in everyday life, including sexual violence, abuses in the family, sexual harassment at the workplace, etc., and other measures adopted to eradicate this violence. So the state should provide measures to eradicate the cited violations and violence. The existence of support services for women who are the victims of aggression or abuses. What are all the existing support services rendered by the state to the affected people? the statistical data on the incidence of violence of all kinds of against women and on women who are the victims of violence. State parties should take appropriate and effective measures to overcome all forms of gender-based violence, whether by public or private act. So here, the state parties should take appropriate and effective measures to the supposed oppressed people. And the recommendation 19 says that state parties should ensure that laws against family violence, abuse, rape, sexual assault, and other gender-based violence giving adequate protection to all women and respect their integrity and dignity. Appropriate protective and support services should be provided for the victims. So that is legal remedies. Gender-sensitive training of judicial and law enforcement officers and public officials is essential for the effective implementation of the convention. So the convention has is in charge of giving training to the judicial and law enforcement officers, public officials, and spreading awareness about the features of the SEDA and its consequences if it is not followed. If proper training is given, then definitely it can be properly executed by the enforcement officers. And also encourage the compilation of statistics and research on. Okay. So to continue with the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, the last point is the state parties in their report should identify the nature and extent of attitudes, customs, practices that perpetuate violence against women and the kinds of violence that result. So here, it is not the law that hinders the development of women, it is the practices of the people at all different levels. So our culture, customs, conventions, all these are only hindering in sharing the rights of men to women. So that is the basic issue. So all these should be reported by the state to the Committee on the Elimination of the Discrimination Against Women so that they can take actions. The report should measure that they have undertaken to overcome violence, citing the causes and their remedies. And another convention, another instrument, that is Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. It was established in 1984. It requires every state to take effective measures to prevent torture in any territory under their jurisdiction and forbid state to transport people to any country when there is reason to believe they will be tortured. So during the crisis period, people used to migrate from one state to another state. That time, the people should be given asylum, given a refugee status, so that they cannot be sent back. And after once the issue has been resolved, then they can be sent. So that is the basic thing. So Convention Against Torture, the torture should be prevented, and other inhuman and degrading treatment should be stopped. Another instrument is Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women. It is also called as DEVA. Contained within it is the recognition of the urgent need of the universal application to women's rights and the principles with regard to equality, security, liberty, integrity, and dignity of all human beings. The resolution is also often seen as complementary and strengthening of the work of the Convention of Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. And another one is the Vienna Declaration Program of Action. It's also known as VDPA. It's a human rights declaration adopted by consensus at the World Conference on Human Rights. It was established in 1993 in Austria, and according to the Vienna, it says that the human rights of women and of the girl child are inalienable, integral, and indivisible part of universal human rights. So that is inalienable, integral, and indivisible. The full and equal participation of women in political, civic, economic, social, and cultural life national, regional, international levels, and the eradication of all forms of discrimination on the grounds of sex are priority objectives of the international community. So Vienna Declaration plays an important role because it says that the women and girl child rights are inalienable, பிரிக்க முடியாதது, integral, it is a part. பிறக்கும் பொழுது as a human by birth it is integrated and indivisible, பிரிக்கவும் முடியாதது. And the next one is the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. This was made in 1995, and there more than 17,000 new participants and more than 20,000 activists of women's rights participated. It was a major event which took place in 1995, and in that Beijing Declaration and its Platform for Action, they have concluded with the 12 important areas which are going to ensure greater equality and opportunities for women, men, girls, and boys altogether. It laid out concrete ways for countries to bring about change. The 12 flagged areas in the Beijing Declaration and the platform for action, for further action, are women and poverty, concentrating on more and more schemes to eradicate the poverty, education and training of women. So education definitely will enlighten the women, create awareness, and the economical status also will improve. Women and health, providing all types of health facilities, healthcare facilities to the women for violence against women should be stopped by bringing in more and more legislations through the national level, state level, and different levels, and women and armed conflict. So you know the situations happening in the border places, especially in Jammu and Kashmir, how the women are affected. So that are the main thing. And women and economy, women in power and decision making. So that till date we are not able to provide reservation to the people at the central level. We are not having the policy makers, the people have to open up their mind to give people the reservation to the women so that they can be empowered and they can also take part in the decision making process as a policy maker. And institutional mechanisms, both the legal, judicial, executive at all levels, the women should be empowered and given opportunities, and the human rights of women, all that is basic rights, and women and the media, women and the environment, and the girl child. These are all the 12 flagged areas which are able to ensure greater equality and opportunities for women. And another resolution is UN General Assembly Resolution, Crime Prevention, Criminal Justice Measures. Eliminate violence against women. Women are treated fairly by the criminal justice system. So the criminal justice system plays an important role in rendering the justice to the victims. That was the resolution created, that if we are a signatory, it has to be implemented. And the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 stresses the importance of women's equal participation and full involvement in all efforts to maintain, promote peace and security. At all different levels, their participation in the policy making, in the policy implementation, and also in the policy evaluation, women should be involved. The resolution also provides a number of important operational mandates with implication of member states and entities of the United Nations system. And UN General Assembly 5525 says that protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women. The purpose of this protocol are to prevent and combat trafficking in persons, paying particular attention to women and children, to protect and assist the victims of trafficking with full respect for their human rights, to protect cooperation among state parties in order to meet those objectives. And UN Security Council Resolution 1820 to protect women and girls from sexual violence in armed conflict. UN Security Resolution 1888 ensure legal and judicial reforms. UN Security Council 1889 put an end to impunity, exemption, and to prosecute, punish the offenders. UN Security Resolution 1960 ensured time-bound commitments. And the next international instrument is UN Women. So in July 2010, the United Nations General Assembly created this UN Women with the aim for gender equality and the empowerment of women. They even took an historic step in accelerating the organization's goal on gender equality and the empowerment of women. This UN Women was created by merging the following 4 divisions. Division for the Advancement of Women, International Research and Training Institute of Advancement of Women, Office of the Special Advisor on Gender Issues and Advancement of Women, United Nations Development Fund for Women. All these 4 important system was merged and created UN Women for aiming, that is for to secure gender equality and empowerment of women. The main roles of UN Women are to support intergovernmental bodies such as the Commission on the Status of Women in the formulation of policies, global standards and norms. It's a supporting body to help member states to implement these standards, standing ready to provide suitable technical and financial support to those countries that request it, and for effective partnership with civil society. To hold the UN system accountable for its own commitment on gender equality include regular monitoring of system statewide progress. So these are all the some of the international instrument for promoting and protecting the women's rights. And the second part of our talk is going to deal with the regional instruments. What are all the different regional instruments? In that, we are going to start with the European human rights system. It's a regional human rights aiming for providing rights to the women. It consists of 3 major intergovernmental organizations that are the Council of Europe, European Union, Organization of Security Cooperation in Europe. So this is dealing with the security, promoting stability and peace in Europe, and COE promotes and protects human rights and the rule of law, education, monitoring, direct enforcement of the obligations found in COE treaties. And these are all the some of the regional instruments, like Inter-American Convention on the Prevention, Punishment and Eradication of Violence against Women. It is the first legally binding international treaty that criminalizes all forms of violence against women, especially sexual violence. So that is the regional treaty. It was created in the year 1994 following the CEDAW, which was created in 1979, and it was followed by that, following by the principles it was created. And another instrument of regional is Protocol to the African Chapter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of the Women in Africa, also known as Maputo Protocol. It guarantees comprehensive rights to women, including the right to take part in political process, to social and political equality with men, improved autonomy in the reproductive health decisions, and to end the female genital mutilation. And another instrument is revised Pacific Platform for Action on Advancement of Women and Gender Equality. It deals with the indicators, targets indicators of women's rights, gender equality. So almost all the international instruments or regional instruments are focusing on the gender equality and empowerment, socially, economically, politically empowerment of women force. And African Commission on Human Rights, Human and People's Rights Resolution, it says that criminalizes all forms of violence, like the Inter-American Convention, and the police and military forces receive adequate training. So some of the conventions are also aiming for training the officials, the law enforcement officers, in order to enforce properly and to render justice. So these are all some of the regional instruments. So many are there. Due to time constraint, I have limited myself in citing out the international instruments and regional instruments. So next we are going to move to another part, that is enforcement. So we have seen the different rights for women from treaties, declaration, conventions, and so on, how it is going to be enforced. The enforcement can be categorized into 2 different types. That is, if all the mechanisms are ratified, then it can be, if it is ratified, it can be called as positive obligations. If it is not ratified, it will be called as negative obligations. If it is positive obligation, then the state has to take affirmative actions to guarantee the human rights are protected. If negative, the state can refrain from actions. So based on the positive and negative obligations, there are three major categories of enforcement mechanisms. One is charter-based mechanisms, such as the UN Commission on the Status of Women, convention or treaty-based mechanisms, such as SEDA, mechanisms contained in UN specialized agencies, such as the Labour Organization and the World Health Organization. So therefore, the major UN enforcement bodies which are dealing with the human rights, women's human rights are follows: UN Committee on Elimination of Discrimination against Women, UN Commission on Status of Women, UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, UN Human Rights Committee, UN Commission on Human Rights and Subcommission on the Promotion and Protection of Rights, UN Committee Against Torture, Office of the United Nations High Commissioner on Human Rights. So these are all some of the enforcement bodies which are going to carry out. In this connection, it must be noted that individuals or non-governmental organizations can bring information about human rights violation or non-compliance with human rights obligations to the UN bodies mentioned. By following these two procedures, how they can bring the complaint mechanisms and its procedures. Complaint mechanisms, reporting, monitoring mechanisms. So the complaint mechanisms, it says that it will be called as the communications. The UN bodies accept complaints, which is usually referred to as communication, directly from private individuals or from NGOs or on behalf of individuals. So all categories of people in the society are able to represent their grievances. Depending on the body to which the complaint is submitted, there are two types of complaints, each of which serves as a different purpose. The first one is the complaint recourse procedure. It should be used when the victim is seeking to redress for a specific human rights violation. The decision reached by the UN in such circumstances are not binding on the national government. So you know that the role played by the different international instruments, organizations, agencies, the state, that is, by being a positive obligant, the state can take affirmative actions, but it cannot, it may sometimes render justice or it may not sometimes render justice because just the instruments, the mechanisms, the agencies are having certain limitants for their actions. The second is the complaint information procedure. It is inform the appropriate. The first one is taking action, submitting the report, and the United Nations stand and the UN body continue to monitor the state compliances. The second one is only just informing the appropriate UN body. And the reporting and monitoring mechanisms, in order to enforce the provisions of international treaties, the UN does not solely rely on the information of violations of human rights brought out by individuals or NGOs. The UN human rights body themselves regularly monitor compliance with treaty obligations. On their own, they are able to monitor and report the procedures to the particular organizations. The complaint mechanisms does not result in legal binding decision, or it does not depend on information communicated by individuals or groups. The procedures are different. When UN bodies undertake monitoring, they create a report of state non-compliance, which includes specific authoritative, non-binding and recommendations. So non-compliance, the conventions, the features of the conventions are not complied by the state. That will be reported by the authorities. And here, the Human Rights Council complaint procedure form. So it has been categorized into 8. Due to time constraint, I have just taken the headlines alone. So information concerning the authors of the communication of the alleged victim, if other than any author, information of the state concerned, facts of the complaint and the nature of the alleged violations, exhaustion of domestic remedies. So before going into the top level agencies of human rights mechanisms, people or citizens of the particular state has to represent their state legal mechanisms and should try to get justice. If they are not able to get the justice at their own jurisdiction level, the final destination is the Human Rights Commission, where they can lodge their complaint. So exhaustion of domestic remedies, if it is not exhausted, then it should start at the local level, then only it should reach at the highest level. And submission of communication to other human rights bodies, request for confidentiality. So while submitting our information, we also should request for the confidentiality, because we know the consequences. If the complaints against the state is going on, what will be the consequences, we will know. So you have to maintain the confidentiality and by seeking the permission from the Human Rights Council. And the checklist of supporting documents, and this is the address where we have to send the complaint. And the last one is my observation, actions to achieve gender egalitarianism for sustainable development, how it can be. So women empowerment, gender equality, it can be attained by adopting the certain provisions, that is, empower women as a change agent and leaders. So we, the people, have to empower the women force to act as the change agents. That is, according to our father of political science, Aristotle, he says that the only constant permanent thing in the world is change. So we, the people, have to bring in the change to empower the women to change their fate and also the fate of the nation. Engage boys and men in actions to promote gender equality, moving from visibility to accountability. So visibility, now there we are able to have more and more visibility, that is empowerment of women are there, but more and more accountability have to be ensured in bringing the women force into the mainstream. Bringing human rights to the mainstream of human rights, respecting cultural diversity while promoting universal human rights, empowering women fuels, flourishing economies, and spurring productivity and growth. So women empowerment, that is, if they are empowered, the economy will be boosted, the productivity will boost, the growth will boost. So raise our voice, not only your voice, raise everyone's voice, support one another, educate the next generation, transform lives everywhere. So what we expect is an equal world is an enabled world. So as per the theme of the Women's Day celebrations, it is the theme. See, the theme for International Women's Day celebration 2020 is I Am Generation Equality, Realizing Women Rights. That is the theme given for celebrating the women in 2020, I Am Generation Equality. So we, the people, according to this theme, change our attitude, change our mindset, so that we can empower the women. We can stop all the atrocities, discriminations, violence against the women, and empower them. And we can have an equal world. In an equal world is an enabled world. So we'll try to follow in our day-to-day life. Thank you very much. I thank all the participants and the authorities of the university, that is Annamalai University, and my head of the department, Dean, and Dr. Shaktivel, Dr. Balamurugan, Dr. and this